Hey everybody, my name is Emily Conley, and last week in your group I posted a picture of this shirt, and I asked if anybody was interested in learning how to create their own mandalas from scratch in Adobe Illustrator. Thank you all for all of your comments and your support, because what ended up happening is being featured on this tutorial this week. So today we're going to learn how to draw and scan and create our own mandalas in Adobe Illustrator. I do not know how to do this in Silhouette or Cricut or Brother Scan and Cut. I am a graphic designer, so I use Adobe all the time for my designs, and then basically the software just to cut. So if you're looking on how to use Adobe Illustrator and how to do it that way, I can help you. Any other way, you're going to have to watch somebody else's tutorial on that. So let's get started. I'm going to share my screen with you. To begin, you're going to need obviously a computer. You're going to need Adobe Illustrator. You will need a printer and a scanner. You'll also need a fine point Sharpie. That is not a fine tip Sharpie, not the really skinny ones, but just your normal old black Sharpie. And then you'll need paper to print on. So, first step, we're going to go to the top and say File, New Document. And call it Mandala or whatever. You only need one artboard, and we want to make sure that it is a letter size piece of paper because we are going to be printing this off. I'm going to say OK. Alright, so before we get started, we're going to need to give ourselves some guides first. I'm going to go up here at the top and say View, down here to Rulers, and say Show Rulers. If your rulers are already shown, you do not need to do anything here. Okay, I've got my rulers. Now I also need to go here to Guides and make sure that they are not locked. So mine right now are locked. I don't want them to be locked. So I'm going to take off Lock Guides. Okay, and the last thing I'm going to do is go here again to View, down to Smart Guides, and make sure that it is checked. And if it's checked, you're good. If it's not, please turn on your Smart Guides. Okay. Now we're going to give ourselves the center point of this artboard or this piece of paper, because we want to make sure that everything we do for this mandala revolves around the center. So first thing I'll do is drag this down here, and I'll drag one over here. Now, it's very obvious it is not centered. So I'm going to go here to my Align tools at the top and center it. If you do not have Align tools right here, don't worry, you still have them, but they're somewhere else. So go over here to Window and then click on Align, and they'll pop up for you. Okay? You're going to need that several times throughout this. So right now you will select this line here. Okay? Make sure it's a royal blue there. And you'll go over here. Sorry, make sure it's my black arrow. And you'll go to Horizontal Align Center. Okay? Awesome. Now it's centered. Go to this one down here, do the same thing, but do it for vertical align. Awesome. Now it's centered. So we'll go back up to View, Guides, and now we are going to lock them because we don't want them to go anywhere. So now we have to create our shell, or our base, where we're going to eventually draw from. See over here I have this polygon tool. Yours may look like a square. It might say rectangle tool. You need to click on it and hold until we get to polygon. Alright? Once you have polygon, what I want you to do is go here and you'll see a little cross. Line it up with your guides and click once. Okay? Now the top number to me, make it 4. And on sides, I want them to say 12. Okay? I want to have 12 sides to this thing. I'm going to say OK. And there we go. Now you'll notice I don't have an outline around it, so I am going to go up here to the top and click on this line color here and select an outline color. For me, I always use this bright pink. It's hard to miss. So, now to make sure I'm centered, I'm going to do my horizontal align button again and my vertical align button again and just make sure, and they were just fine. So that's good. Now, this is great. We have 12 sides, but what we need is 12 individual, what I'm going to call pie pieces. So I'm going to go over here to my line segment tool in my toolbar on the left. I'm going to click it, and I'm going to start at this corner here. See where it says anchor? That's where you want to be, and that is why we turned our smart guides on, so that they are going to let us know when we have hit that anchor point. Now I want you to click and drag across until you see the other anchor come up, and then you're going to let go. Okay? Awesome. We've crossed the center. Do the same thing on the other side, and we're going to make a big X. And we've done that again. So now I'm going to go around the rest of my circle and do the same thing, making sure I cross in that middle point every single time. And eventually it's going to look kind of like a pizza. Okay? Awesome. Now it should look like a pizza. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to select everything. And what I do is just start off the screen and drag over it. Now, we have the guides laid out. It's a pizza, but these aren't individual pieces. If you try to click on this piece, the whole thing moves. That's not what we want. We want them to be individual pieces. So I'm going to undo that, select everything, and go to my Pathfinder tool. Now mine is already open. I want you, if you don't have yours open, to go to Window, down to Pathfinder, and it will pop open on the side. Okay? Once you get that open, you'll see a button down here that says Pathfinders. I want you to click on that very first one right there. And what that's going to do is make these individual pieces for us. Okay? After that, you want to ungroup this stuff, so go to Object, Ungroup, and let's try to move a piece. Ah, look at that. We have actual pizza slices now. So the last thing I need to do is I need to work with 1/24 of this. So I'm going to go here to my line again, my line segment tool. I'm going to click it, and I'm going to highlight this middle guide, hold my shift key, and drag down. And by holding that shift key, it keeps everything even for me. It's going to make sure that my line is straight. Okay? Again, I'm going to click the center button just to make sure I've for sure got it right. And it's in the middle. So once I have those two, or that line, I'm going to take the line and this pie piece that it's going through and select them. Okay? Go back to my Pathfinder over here and click that first button. Go up to Object in the toolbar at the top and ungroup that. And you now have half of a piece, right? It's exactly what we want. We want this half. So now everything else, all this other hard work, you're going to select it and delete it because we don't need it anymore. Okay? I'm going to take this pink part here, center it in my board, and then make it bigger. Okay? Once I've done that, the last thing I need to do is make this pink line a little less noticeable, because when we print it, we want it to be dark enough to be able to see a guide, but we don't want it to be so dark that when we scan this image back in, it starts to show up. It'll mess up our art. So we'll go up here to the pink line and click it, and I always do this second gray right here. Okay, I can see on my board when I print it off, I'll be able to see it a little bit and it'll give me a guide. So now what I need you to do is to print this image off. So now that you have your printed off piece of paper, we're going to actually get started making the mandala part. It's kind of hard to see. You can barely see that gray line, right? That's exactly what we want. So before I told you to make sure you have a regular fine point Sharpie, black preferably. The reason why, and I'll show you, is because when you use a fine tip Sharpie, it can be a little harder to work with when we start talking about weeding. So this is an example of the two that I have done at this point. This one here is my fine tip Sharpie. This is the first time I was working on it. It looks great, right? It looked great on this shirt, the one I showed you guys. However, when you get really up close and personal with it, what you're going to find is that places like this, sorry it's a little blurry, places like this, they were really, really hard to weed. So I did it. I said, whatever, nobody will really notice. Now, I do not like to weed. I really like the look, but they don't like to weed. So for me, I don't want to do this. I want to make sure that I do something that is a lot easier to weed around. And I would suggest for at least your first time trying it, because this was kind of a pain. This one was the second one, which is the one you saw me wearing earlier, and I'm still wearing now. It's a lot easier to work with, and it still looks really, really nice. See? So, it still looks intricate, but it was a lot less time to weed than this. So, the next part is the fun part, because we're going to start drawing. Okay, so I sped it up so you wouldn't have to watch me draw for 10 minutes, but I'm officially finished with my mandala piece. So you'll see at this very top, I didn't quite go to the, I wanted to have a nice rounded edge on my mandala. That's fine to do. It's also fine to go over that line. That's okay too. It's just however you want the top to look. So now what I need you to do is to take your drawing and to scan it into your computer and then get that scan into your Illustrator file. So now we're back and I have my scan in here and I still have my piece right here. What I'm going to do for now is I'm going to take this piece and move it off to the side, okay? We're not going to need it for just a second. Next thing I'm going to do is take this image, okay, center in my page, and then I'm going to go over here to this image trace button at the top. If you don't have this image trace button at the top, you can go to Object, down to Image Trace, and then say Make and Expand, alright? So, I'm going to click on Image Trace. The next thing we're going to have to do is expand it. And that means that now each individual piece of black and each individual piece of white is a shape. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to come in here and get rid of all of this white. So if I go here to the direct selection tool, the white tool here, I need to get rid of all of this white stuff. So I will click right here on this white part and you'll see it's selected, most of it. There are parts of it that it didn't get. These little pieces right here. Now for me, that's not a big deal. I only have a few of those. But for your design, you may have some areas that are closed off and are white and you don't want to go through and select those one by one by one. So I'm going to go up here, once I've selected my outer white area, to select, go to Same, and then I'm going to say Fill Color. And what that's going to do is it's going to select any white in that image that it can find. Okay, then I'm able to just take my delete key and get rid of all of it. Alright? If you find little black edges like I see right here, we're going to cut that out. Okay, just going to go around it and delete it. All that I should be left with is this right here. Okay? The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this bottom piece and I'm going to hold my shift key and I'm going to drag it up to that axis right there. Alright? I want to get it even with this axis here. If you're having a hard time, you may need to zoom in, okay? And you may need to zoom in real far. There we go. Now I can't see that dark blue line because it's flush with the axis. Now what we have to do is we have to clean up some of these edges, because ultimately what we're going to end up doing is reflecting this piece, okay, to the right to make one pie piece like we had earlier. But if I were to do that right now, I'll show you. I'm going to copy this and paste it. Then I'm going to go to Object, Transform, and Reflect it. Okay? You don't have to do this with me. I just want to show you. If I were to butt it up to the other side, reflected like it is, you'll notice there's some huge gaps and it doesn't seem seamless, right? What we really want is it to kind of look like that, okay? So here's how we fix that. I'm going to delete all that, get my guides back on, okay? I'm going to use this pie piece as kind of a guide. So I'll drag it back on. Again, hold the shift key every time because when you hold the shift key, it keeps everything proportional. There we go. And it is, okay? Same thing over here. We want to make sure it's flush. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this guide here, okay? And instead of having a line, I'm going to turn the line off and I'm going to make it pink. Alright? Love that bright pink because I can see what I'm doing. So now that I've seen my pie piece there, I need to get this image in it. Okay? So I'm going to start moving it around to make sure that it's really in there. And what I'm going to find is that I might need to make it just a little bigger. Okay? So that these edges are cutting off. That's the goal here. I want some of these edges to be going off of this pink part because when it reflects, it needs to be flush with the other side. So some of that has got to overlap and hang off. And we're going to get rid of it, so don't worry. Okay. Awesome. Now that I have all that stuff done, I'm going to do one more flip-flop, okay? I'm going to go here. See this part right down here over to the left corner where I can flip the fill and the stroke? I'm going to flip it, okay? Now I've got my line on the outside. You'll see right now my line is actually behind my artwork. I need it to come in front of it. So I'm going to right click, arrange, and I'm going to bring it to the front. And you'll see. Okay? The next thing I need to do is to get rid of all this black on the outside. And here's how I have found is the easiest way to do that. This is where our Pathfinder is probably going to become your best friend. I'm going to go up here to stroke. Okay? See right here on align stroke it says align to outside? I'm going to click on that because now it's going to align any part of that pink line to the outside of my artwork because we don't want to cut off any of it. Okay? Now I'm going to make my stroke however big it needs to be to where I don't see any black around the edges. Okay? After I've done that, I'll go to Object, Path, outline my stroke, and now it's a shape. It's not a stroke anymore. Okay? Once I've done that, and I'll zoom out so we can see, once I've done that, I'm going to select every single piece of black and pink that I see. Alright? You'll see that there are edges over on the pink part. That's great because we're getting rid of those. Next I'll go to my Pathfinders. Click that first one again, and it's now separated these odd little pieces from my artwork. Once I've done that, go to Object, Ungroup, and I'll be able to click here with my white direct selection tool. I'll click on that pink part. I'll go up here to select, same fill color once again, and I've selected all the pink parts, and when I delete, look how smooth those sides are. Okay? Turn my guides off so you can see how smooth they are. That's awesome. Now what you'll also run into again, like you see something highlighting here, I've got some weird shapes that are no fill. Okay? They don't have any color to them, and the reason you know that is because if you look over here, they don't have any color. So what I'll do is I'll go to Select, Same Fill Color, and it'll select all the weird shapes that don't have any kind of color in them, and delete them. And the reason we have to delete them is because of this. Let me show you. If I were to select my whole image right now, every single thing, and I wanted to make that little guy green, when I tried to make him green, it's going to do that because it's thinking that those are pieces. Alright? So that's why I want to go here, click on one of those weird little unfilled parts, go to Select, Same, Fill Color, and delete them all. So that when I select on any of this little guy, and I want to make him green, well, I can. Alright? Now, I'm going to change him back to black. Just select him all, and I'm going to go to Object and group him. Alright? I'm also going to go back here and make sure that he really is lined up perfectly on my guides. I just found right here that I really don't like this part. If you have anything like this on the border that you don't like, go over here to your anchor point tool, hold it in, and hold the delete anchor point, and you'll be able to kind of just go in and delete anything that doesn't follow in that line. Okay, so now I've smoothed that out. You'll find little nitpicky stuff like that. Alright. So now that I have this as one shape, like you can see there, I need to reflect it over here. So I'm going to go to Object. Actually, I'm going to copy first. I'm going to go to Object or Edit, Copy, Edit, Paste, and there you see another one, okay? Then I'm going to go to Object, Transform, and Reflect vertically. Alright, it needs to be vertical. I'm going to say OK. Then I'm going to butt this one up against that other one, okay? Make sure it's lined up. Woo. With both of my guides. Okay, and now we see that it is. I'm going to select all these, and I am going to group everything. So now what I'm going to do, now that I've done that, I'm going to select them. I'm going to group them. Alright, then I'm going to go over here to my rotate button here. It looks like a little circle with an arrow. And I'm going to click, make sure it's on rotate. Go back over here to my center point. Hold my Option or my Alt key, depending on if you're Mac or Windows. Hold that key and then click. And you'll notice the little window is going to pop up, and now my piece has moved. I want to make sure that this right here says 30. Okay? And then I'm going to click Copy. And look at that. It's copied it. Now, I can repeat that step over and over and over again if I want, or I can click Command D on a Mac, and it will copy it over and over and over and over again until I have created a full mandala. Okay, once that's all done, I'm going to drag and select all of that. Object, I'm going to group it, size it on my artboard. Okay, turn my guides off there to get them out of my way. Now you'll see that you may have a few little, where it didn't line up perfect, a few little straggling lines, right? You can see those pretty easily. And what I like to do is just something like this. I'll go in and I'll double click, okay? I'm in this group, you see everything's grayed out. I will drag it across the whole thing, click this direct select tool, hold my shift key and delete this outer shape so that only those little lines are selected, and I can delete just like that. Alright, you're going to find that that's going to happen in some of these areas. So you will literally just have to go through and kind of clean it up a little bit and delete them. Alright, it's not a huge deal. That's part of drawing things on our own here, is that they get a little messy. So I'm going to go through and clean these up. The very last thing I'm going to show you how to do is to make this into one of these states like I do. I'm actually going to do this for the whole United States silhouette and offer that as a freebie at the end of this tutorial. So you'll be able to use that for whatever you want. So I'm going to go over here to my Finder, and then I'm going to get my file of the United States open, which I have. If you don't, you can download one, an SVG somewhere. They're all over the place. I have a whole Illustrator file of state outlines that I have collected. So that is what I use. I'm going to take that and I'm going to copy it out of this thing and over into my mandala. Okay, and paste. Obviously it's huge, so I'm going to need to scale it down. Again, I'm going to hold Shift to do that. And there we go. Now, go over here to color, and I'm going to make this thing bright pink because that's most of the time what I do so I can see what I'm doing. That's, at this point, I'm going to start making it bigger and try to get it more of the size of this mandala. Before I go in and I get ready to cut this thing all up, I'm going to take my United States and click on it. I'm going to copy it and then paste it. Okay, and put it over to the side. Next thing I'm going to do is take this United States and make it a different color. Alright. Now I'm going to select everything black and pink. Go back to my Pathfinder tool because it's become our favorite tool. And click that first Pathfinder and divide. That's what that is called. Okay. Now I'll click on my white direct selection tool. I will click this black circle in the middle. Go up at the top to select. Same fill color. And it's going to select everything that's black. And I'm going to delete it. And there's that. You'll see here I've got that weird no fill shape, right? We want to get rid of that, so I will click on one of those. My black arrow, click on one of those. Alright, here we go. Go over to select, same fill color, and delete all of that stuff. Now it's gone. Again, you may have to come in a little bit and do some cleanup. Once we're satisfied with that, we'll go over here, click on our United States, and I'm going to do my center in the middle and center both horizontally and vertically, and I'm going to do the same for my other United States. And they should line up perfectly, okay? Then I'm going to take this background, this is going to become my background color. Take that background color and I'm going to add a stroke to it. Alright, I'm going to make it a pretty big stroke. Now, you see how everything's all jagged and crazy? We don't want that, so we need to click on stroke and round the edge of it. Okay, object, after that, object, path, outline that stroke. Go over here to Pathfinder and click the very first one under shape modes and weld all that together. Okay? If you don't like some of these things, like I am not going to like the fact that this piece is cut out, I'm going to come in here with my white arrow and click on these points and delete them, okay? So that that is also seamless, okay? Zoom out. Next thing that's left to do is to send this to the back. Alright, take my pink part there and I can make it blue if I wanted to. I can come in and let's say that I wanted to make some of them blue and some of them white. I could also do that. Come in here and say, okay, you're going to be white, you're going to be white. Let's do that. And okay, that looks great. So this file will be available for download for free. So thank you all for listening today, and thank you all for all of your excitement and even learning about these in the first place. So I know today was probably just a little long, but there were lots and lots of steps, and we were on the computer and we were drawing, so I appreciate everyone bearing with me. That file that we worked on today, I am going to have that available for download for you all. So I appreciate your time and I appreciate you listening. My shop link, my Etsy shop link is going to be below, and I hope you guys are able to make some really cool stuff now too. I would love to see it once you do. Thanks.